why I am not coming back to the United States. If you're watching this video, you're gonna learn some of the challenges as a immigrant, as a minority in the US. And if you're in the US now, I'm gonna talk about some of the reasons why your win conditions might have changed recently for dating, for making money, for living a great life. And hopefully this video will give you some elements to think about in terms of where you want to be in the next 5 years. I lived in the United States from the time I was 16 all the way till 37. When I came to America for college at 16, it was the year 2000. And back then, America was number one, and I just wanted to make it. To me, the American dream was alive and well. I wanted to do good in school. I wanted to get a great job. I wanted to get my green card. Fortunately for me, I was always pretty high IQ, even though I was relatively low EQ. And so I did okay in school. I wasn't a genius or anything. I just worked really hard. And I got a company to sponsor me when I graduated, and eventually I transferred around and I ended up at Google. And Google sponsored me for my green card, which I'm forever thankful for. All the while, I had to compete with, better looking tech bros in terms of job promotions and in terms of dating, right? So I didn't have a lot of success in dating, and promotion-wise, Silicon Valley is an okay place for Asians because there's so many of us there. And also there are a lot of Asians in middle management and upper management. But overall, it's still mostly, white people. Tech is less concentrated, but if you look at like finance, management, consulting, any of the non-tech firms, they're mostly old white guys. When I was in management consulting, I had 8 to 10 partners that I reported to with 2 or 3 different projects, and all of them were old white guys.
Bear with me for just a second, please. Okay.
Oh, there was one Indian guy who made it to partner after I left, but he's definitely a rare exception. The good news for you is that I would say I came up on top. I worked at 3 different Fortune 500 companies at middle management levels. One which was considered the number 1 place to work for in the world that had a lower acceptance rate than Stanford and Harvard. And I've dated models at Fashion Week from New York to LA. I'm not saying this to impress you. I'm saying this to impress upon you that I have some knowledge to share, and that if I died tomorrow, I don't plan to, I hope I don't. But as far as the dating front goes, I think I've played it at a level that I feel like I have no regrets. But it wasn't easy. And in this video, I want to talk about some of the challenges that you're going to face if you live in America, especially as an immigrant. America, in terms of male-female ratios and the quality of women there, with the rare exceptions in LA and New York, it's actually not as good as a lot of the places in the world. And if you're a minority, there are girls who will date you, but there's this really high bar that you have to pass, right? So if you're like a dorky Asian guy like this, you're not gonna be able to get to a point where they're gonna even give you a chance. So you really have to, improve your style, your communication to a point where you can even play the game and the game can move forward. Once I figured out my style, once I got my communication down, I started getting good results. I started getting a lot of results. It's kind of like a rocket ship, right? It's like getting off gravity is very difficult. It takes a lot of energy. But once you're in orbit, you're like one of the few Asian guys who dresses well, who looks cool, who, can talk to women. And you just start cleaning up. But to get to that highest level in terms of your the way you look and your communication skills, for me at least, and I would argue for most Asian guys, takes a significant amount of work to do so. It took me probably 5 or 6 years to really figure out how to date freely and date the women that I wanted. Another challenge in the US is I'm constantly afraid of the police. There were a couple incidents where I got tickets where I think I shouldn't have, and one time my brother and I went in a car. It was my graduation day, and this female cop pulled me over and asked me to do a bunch of stuff that I didn't think was necessary. That was like a low point in my graduation day, being pulled over for no reason and kind of a power trip almost. And you're always wondering, like, there are a lot of good cops, no doubt, but because of the social tension, you're always wondering, like, is this going to be a good cop or a bad cop? And if they pull me over, like, I'm not 100% sure that they're going to be okay. They're going to be cool. Society in general, in Boston it was fine. San Francisco was fine because there's a large Asian population. But the non-Asian people will look at you like you look different, right? But that look is more a look of, like, you look alien. You look a little bit weird. Whereas if you go to Brazil or if you go to another country without a lot of Asians, they'll look at you like you're almost majestic, like, oh, like you're like a peacock, like, oh, it's beautiful, like you look different. It's wow, it's one of like wonder rather than, dude, you look different, bro. Being Asian in a Western country is just harder, and I didn't realize that because I lived in the States for so long. I competed there, and everything that was harder just felt normal to me after a while. There is job ladder racism that doesn't get talked about. I would say less at Google, but even at the tech companies. Basically, like the tech bros, if you're white male, it's easier for you to get along with people in senior management. Let's put it that way. You have more interests. There's more commonality there, especially if you're American. There's not a lot of Asian role models. There are a lot of Asian executives in Silicon Valley, but in terms of percentage, it's still pretty low. In order to move up that ladder, you have to learn how to socialize with American people. More specifically, mostly American men, because they're mostly the ones in power. And I'm not saying this to be racist or anything. It's just that imagine if you were a white guy in a senior management job, right? Like, inevitably, it's not public information, but the people that can talk to the CEO, the people that can have a real conversation with the VP, those are the people that get to showcase their work, and those are the people that get picked and promoted. Like, it's a social game, guys. Yes, they say, it's based on your test scores and your resume, and that stuff does count in certain areas, but a lot of senior management promotions are based on relationships. You're just not going to promote someone into an important position that you don't trust. Another issue with America is like a threat of violence. So even like in a street basketball game, people are a little bit more handsy than they are here in Taiwan. And there's always like the risk that like a fight will break out. It's almost like it's okay to fight. And now with the gun issues, it's just like you're constantly like wondering like what's going on. Like just walking with my friend to the mall, and then there's like a police tape at the mall. The whole mall was taped off, and we were walking there, and the officer's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we were like, "We're going to the mall to watch a movie." And he's like, "Don't you know what's going on?" And I'm like, "No, what happened?" And he's like, "There was a shooting here. You guys can't go to the mall," and we turn around and walk the other way. It just feels unsafe. And then sometimes when you hear like really loud noises in the States, you're always like turning around, like even though it's like a parade or celebration, you're like, oh, did someone just like with those gunshots, like what's going on? Americans, at least the circle I was in, very focused on work, very focused on promotions, thinking that success at work will lead to other successes in other areas of your life, which I've later found out is untrue. Alright, I've given you some of the bad stuff. What are the pros? Diamonds are made from a lot of pressure. So with that pressure comes like higher performance, higher productivity, ability to withstand pressure. I've noticed that the way I work, my work productivity, and the way I interact under pressure is just very calm compared to other people, because I've competed at such a high level for so long. I learned so much about Google, cloud technology, search algorithms, and I have a repository of knowledge now of digital marketing that I can take anywhere in the world. So I'm really grateful for that. People are generally nice. My two girlfriends, both American, and their families were both very nice to me, and they weren't racist at all, and they were just good people. You just have to like filter through a lot of fluff. Like you have to filter through the girls that are a little bit racist, then the girls that are not racist but they don't really like Asian guys, and then there are the girls who are open to dating you, and then there's like another group of girls who prefer Asian guys, but it's a little bit of a fetish, so I try to avoid those girls. Most Americans are genuinely nice people that just want the best in life, as we all do. Another pro is that capitalism can be good. Capitalism forces innovation. It forces you to provide a good or service to someone in order to make it in society. Unchecked capitalism, though, we're at this late stage capitalism where make money at all costs. I think now without proper government controls is starting to create a big gap in the economy, which leads me to my next point. Capitalism without restraint is actually not good. We have girls who are sleeping with Instagram employees to try to get their accounts back. Meta, Google, Facebook, Google, YouTube, these major platforms, they have more power now than like a collection of sovereign nations. The American idea that you can pursue your freedom, you've had the freedom to do what you want to pursue happiness as long as you're not hurting anybody, that dream is good, and it was alive and well in the 2000s and even into the 2010s, but I don't know if it is alive today. So that brings me to now, like, what's changed? Well, inflation. I use the chicken pho index because I love chicken pho. So pre-pandemic, a bowl of chicken pho was $7.50. And now it's $18.95. More than 150% increase. The political infighting is getting crazy. The LGBTQ stuff, like, you don't see this anywhere else in any other country. Like who needs 16 pronouns? Like, but we're not like deriving our identity from like pretending like these things are that important. We also a little bit like like Chinese culture is based on, the origin is based on Confucianism. American culture is based on like, you know, Christian missionaries, freedom, independence, the Wild West, a little bit of both. Asian culture, if you're overweight, people shame you. If you don't do what society tells you, they shame you. They almost shame you into like conformity. And in American culture, it's like freedom to the max, right? Like guns, you know, we want our guns. There's pros and cons to both, right? In Asian culture, like people are usually generally pretty healthy. They follow the rules and they can be very efficient. But in American culture, sometimes you have people that are entrepreneurs that do cool things, but at the same time, you have a lot of crazy people who do crazy things too. So it's not that one society is better than the other. But I would say overall, like in Western countries, like half of my Tinder swipes and Bumble swipes, I just automatically swipe left because they're like their weight's like at a level that's unhealthy. Like it's just like you look at the picture and you know. So like half the swipes are like wasted. That's not the case in most Asian countries and in other countries, Brazil, Eastern Europe. Financially, you basically have to give up 10 to 15 years of your life and save accordingly to retire in the States. I have friends who did it, but it's not easy. I have a tech friend who worked 10 years at a tech company, you know, uses stock options, and now he's worth like 1 or 2 mil. He can retire. Another friend at SpaceX, you know, got SpaceX options, bought Ethereum when it was like $100. Yeah, that guy can retire. But these are really extraordinary smart guys, and most people are not like that. So as you think about living in the States, I want you to think about your win conditions. I'll give you a quick example from my own story. I was living in San Diego and I had a good group of friends there, and I was actually loving it. San Diego is so beautiful. Like the weather is good all year round. People are generally pretty nice. But I realized that to find a wife, there just wasn't enough girls there that liked me enough, that had the qualities that I wanted to find a wife. I mapped out my win condition, right? And I realized to achieve my win condition in San Diego, I would need to befriend a lot of these bros that I actually don't even have a lot in common with. I would have to socialize my way into finding these girls that were like pretty scarce, who were good girls who didn't party that much. I would need to filter through all the girls that didn't like Asian guys. I would need to deal with a little bit of the social pressure there in terms of dating a minority. It was doable, but it required me to do things that I didn't really want to do to achieve my goal of finding my, you know, long-term girlfriend. Those win conditions, once I got to LA, completely shifted. LA, the type of girls I wanted were there. There were career gals who were beautiful. They were intelligent, and there were a lot of them that didn't care what race you were, because it's a very multicultural city, and you know, interracial dating was, you know, very, very common. And there's a lot of the girls that I wanted. And so in LA, the win conditions became a lot easier. Okay, and the win conditions became even easier when I went out of LA. Basically, for my win conditions, in terms of dating, LA or New York would check those win conditions. My win conditions for being able to retire off of my interest, very hard to achieve in the States unless you own stock options or you start your own business. So think about your win conditions and what it would take to achieve them in terms of effort and time, given where you are now. Write down your goal, write down your timeline, map out your conditions based on the data that you've gathered of the city that you're in, and ask yourself, is this achievable? So I love my friends in America. I love America. I love the idea of America. Right now, I don't see a way or reason to come back, given inflation, given the dating situation, given the safety situations, given the political situation. And unfortunately, I can't find legitimate reasons that would benefit my family and me to come back.